What's something you're sick of hearing? My alarm every morning. The ringing in my ears. Celebrities saying, we're all in the same boat. No. We're all in the same storm. You're in a cruise ship. Some are on wooden rafts. You may not rest now. There are monsters nearby. This, oh no, oh no 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 no, TikTok music. Not IRL. But whenever I go to a music video I see, who's listening to this is March 2022 heart, like I get it. Vietnam veterans of Reddit. What's one story you want to share before there's nobody left to tell it? Close friend of mine was USAF SAR. I come from Mass and at the time we had a very large Vietnamese population. Well, he got to talking to a Vietnamese guy who just started working at his shop. Since they were of age, they started talking about the war. After some time turns out the other guy was shooting at my friend as he was getting a downed pilot. And he was shooting back. Best thing was they laughed about it now and proceeded to go get shit-faced drunk to celebrate. Neither of them being able to shoot straight to save their life. Heard they remained good friends until my friend passed. Rip Dave. A friend of mine was a Vietnam vet and he's dead now. So I'll share his story. My friend, John, was in the Marines. He was in Da Nang. And also fought in Hue during the Tet Offensive. Those are the only things I remember specifically. One night, John was on sentry duty and he saw someone sneaking into the camp. The VC were always sneaking in and causing trouble, so it was a serious problem. John caught the guy and the guy tried to run away. So John shot and killed him. It turned out to be the camp barber. A local guy who cut hair for all the Marines and who was popular and well liked. Maybe the guy was actually a VC undercover and was up to no good. Maybe he was just sneaking in for another reason and was really a good guy. He was dead now, so there was no way to know. So John went without a haircut for a month or two. One day, a colonel saw him and started yelling at him about his appearance and asked him why he didn't get a haircut. John replied, "Sir, I shot the barber." John told me that story with a hearty laugh. But it was the kind of funny but not really funny laugh you do sometimes when telling a story like that. John also added that he thinks about that guy whenever he gets a haircut. He sort of dropped that little comment in at the end like it didn't mean much. But it made a big impact on me. John told me that story 30 years after the war had ended. I thought about how many haircuts he'd gotten in the past 30 years. And how every time he sat in the barber's chair, he thought about a man he'd killed. That's war. It's not all the big, terrible stuff. It's living the rest of your life not being able to do something simple like get a haircut, or brush your teeth, or eat a hamburger, without being haunted by a memory. In Vancouver, we didn't get that many vets. But draft dodgers were plenty. I worked with a guy who confessed to being an American on the run. He was up for his draft intake exam and his father was an army general. Asterisk when it came down to it, though. Dad had seen enough conflict and death in the Second World War. And encouraged him to fail it. He said he spent the weekend before the exam, drinking scotch and eating salt pork. Apparently, that shot his blood pressure through the roof temporarily. But he needed a second disability to fail. He had worked for a drug company as an analgesic tester. He'd take a new med, put on a pair of earphones, and a technician would play tones into them. When it reached a painful level, he'd indicate so, and the results of several testers would be compared against people without medication. As a result, he became very familiar with headphones and tones, and found it easy to imitate a substantial level of deafness in one ear when an army-approved technician tested him. "Do you know you're deaf in one ear?" Quote, "Really?" Quote, "Seriously." The results might have been squinted at, but the doctor was known to be anti-war and listed him as 4F. Nonetheless, He headed out for Canada just to play it safe with Dad, the general's encouragement. Recently got my dad to open up a little bit about his Vietnam experiences. He was stationed in Thailand at one of the Air Force bases there. He talked about having to hose down vehicles full of guts and blood and was an apprentice mortician. His big story was he and another guy were doing a perimeter patrol with a dog. One had a shotgun and the other an M16. The dog started freaking out and they entered a little empty spot in the trees and a full-grown tiger was laying in the clearing, cleaning itself. Dad and that other guy scooped up the dog and ran back to the base before it spotted them. Friend of mine was a corpsman in Vietnam. Would fly on the helicopter, land in a war zone, load the wounded on the helicopter, and fly off. Got shot at a lot. In his downtime he would trade morphine for bags of weed. He also used morphine on himself. Everyone there was on drugs. He said, "My drama teacher was a reporter for the army newspaper. Once landed in a fort under assault during a lull. He thought he was going to take pictures. Instead he had to load dead bodies into the helicopter as fast as he could. And then fly out. My other friend doesn't talk about it much other than, I'm not proud of serving. I only did what I could to survive." He was a draftee. In the infantry. Doesn't watch war movies. Either. My father was a Marine helicopter crew chief. During his first tour they transported a lot of ARVN units. They were always told that any ARVN turned around after you dropped them off. You shot them. Then find the grenade they left in the aircraft. He said he never found any grenades, but shot several ARVN. One time, they were landing in some tall grasses. And as the ARVN were jumping out, my dad saw two Vietnamese rise up out of the grass in the distance. He immediately opened up with the door gun and cut them both down. It was an ARVN regimental commander and an escort. No one had told my old man there was already troops in the field. His first sergeant later told him, "Damned gooks should have stayed down until we left." Nothing was ever said officially. Friendly fire against ARVN units was not a major concern. During my childhood, I remember my dad waking up in the middle of the night, screaming. He eventually drank himself to death. Died at the age of 61. 2 tours in Vietnam, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, and severe PTSD. What group doesn't look like a cult but is actually a cult? Flex Seal. I live in Orlando and Disney people are crazy. People selling Herbalife. Under Armour's corporate culture creeps me out. Companies should not have an official chant. I would consider them cult adjacent at the very least. MLMs, they have cult mentality, they use cult practices. Baseball moms. Without revealing your age, what is something from your childhood that kids these days wouldn't understand? Playing the same level on a game over and over because there's no saves. How we had to plan our TV watching around a printed schedule. No VHS, no DVR. The joys of Saturday morning cartoons. Calling a girl and her dad answers the phone. That shit was rough, kids. Video rental stores with adult sections. TV going off the air at night. What movie deeply unsettled you that didn't have obvious violence or gore? Gone Girl. The Truman Show made me paranoid for ages lol. AI artificial intelligence, I felt so heartbroken for that kid. Watching it now, I'm surprised that Disney's Pinocchio 1940 didn't traumatize me as a kid. Bekassu, there are scenes that are straight up nightmare fuel. Grave of the Fireflies by Studio Ghibli. They have brought some memorable animated movies to the world. But this movie I could not watch in one viewing. The sadness. The hurt. I have not re-watched this movie ever. Wish I could unsee it. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. When was the last time you cried, and why? Earlier this week, my cousin died. I cried yesterday. You know, the major, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, minor inconvenience, and then a mental breakdown. 5 days ago, I've been experiencing dizziness and increased migraines for the past year. After getting COVID in January, my heart goes through periods where it feels like it's beating out of my chest. I'm a metal guy, and I went to my first concert in 2 years. Halfway through the show I got so dizzy and overwhelmed I had to leave. I came home and cried to my wife. I'm scared I'm no longer going to be able to participate in the thing that has given me comfort for a majority of my life. I have a doctor's appointment this week and will be demanding referral to a neurologist. I will get through this. About an hour ago. It's been a rough week. 2 days ago, overwhelming stress. Last night, for literally no reason at all. My mum's in hospital. My brother has cancer. And I've been off my bipolar meds for the last 3 months and it is really starting to show. I'm a mess lol. Subscribe, my brothers.